There was a time when someone tried to shrink your light, not just your presence, but the very essence of who you are. They didn't want to walk beside you. They expected you to carry their pain, their burdens, their anger as if it was your responsibility to fix what you never broke. You wondered if maybe, just maybe, if you gave a little more, tried a little harder, they would finally show you the kindness you deserve. But that wasn't love, that was control. Confusion disguised as connection. And even when the weight of it pressured heavy on your heart, even when your voice was quieted, your spirit remembered. It whispered in moments you almost forgot, reminding you that you were never meant to live small. You were made for freedom, for truth. This isn't just a story about walking away. This is your story of coming back home to yourself, of standing tall in your worth, of rising again, this time not as who you were, but as who you have become. There came a moment when it all became too much. The endless pressure, the never-ending confusion, the feeling that no matter what you did, it was never enough. That moment may have been loud, or maybe it was quiet, creeping in slowly. Either way, it marked your turning point. You chose something different. You chose peace over pressure, breathing over suffocating. And maybe it didn't happen all at once. Maybe it came choice by choice. But you started pulling your energy back. The guilt they placed on you, the control they tried to hold, the harshness they projected, none of it was yours to carry. It was their pain, the parts of themselves they couldn't face. And for a while, they tried to hang that weight to you. But even in the dark space, strength was growing inside you, quietly. While they played the games, you were remembering your worth. You didn't run. You outgrew. You didn't fight. You simply stepped away. And by the time they noticed, you were already standing in a new place. That's when everything started to shift. They always wore a careful, crafted mask, polite words, charming smiles, stories that hid their true motives. But now, the mask is cracking. The truth is becoming harder for others to ignore. People are starting to see what you always knew: the cold glances, the subtle blame, the twisted stories made to serve them. And this time, you are not the only one who sees it. You weren't seeing random bad behavior. You were witnessing people influenced by low energies, the hunger for control, the pull of selfish ambition, the fog of deception. They are energies people carry, energies that drive their actions. Recognizing This wasn't about judging them, it was about freeing yourself. You let your silence speak, and that silence, it echoed louder than the noise ever could. In choosing this silence, you unknowingly lived one of the deepest lessons: wise in action. True strength isn't always shown in reaction. Sometimes it's in holding your peace when chaos invites you into its storm. Your stillness wasn't passive, it was a powerful, conscious choice. By refusing to mirror their energy, you protected your own and allowed truth to rise without interference. You didn't fight the battle, you rose above it. Their illusions are unraveling. Those who once believed them are watching with clearer eyes. You didn't need to expose them. Your peace did that on its own. Sometimes strength isn't loud. Sometimes power is in the quiet. You didn't scream. You didn't fight. You didn't seek revenge. You simply stopped feeding the fire. And in that quiet choice, you reclaimed your peace. This is the highest kind of action, doing what is right without attachment to the outcome. You focused on healing yourself. You stood in your truth without demanding that others see it. By stepping away from the need to see them fall, you freed yourself. And in doing so, you allowed life to take its natural course. Your reward wasn't in their downfall, it was in your peace. They tried to provoke you, waited for you to break. But you didn't. You stayed grounded and stood in your center, because real strength doesn't need an audience. As you held your ground, the mask kept slipping. The louder they became, the more obvious their truth became. You didn't have to bring them down. They did that on their own. You just stood in your light and let the storm pass. And as that storm passed, something else moved into place: the law of karma. Remember this: every action carries its own return. Not punishment, not revenge, just a natural, unstoppable return. The control, the manipulation, the hurt they sent out, it had nowhere to go but back to them. You didn't force it. You didn't even wish for it. You just stepped aside and life handled the rest. This wasn't about pain. It was about transformation. The illusions you once believed in, they fell away. Old wounds you wouldn't even realize you carried came to the surface to be healed. And yes, it hurt, but it woke up something inside you that had been buried for far too long. What felt like everything falling apart was really everything falling into place. The breaking wasn't an end, it was a becoming. You started seeing patterns, not just in them, but in yourself. You saw where you carried pain that wasn't yours. You saw how often you dimmed your light to keep the peace. And that moment of awareness, it set you free. You stopped begging to be chosen. You stopped explaining yourself to people who never cared to understand. You started choosing yourself quietly, firmly, without apology. This shift marked one of life's greatest awakenings, realizing you are not your ego. The ego felt the sting of their actions, but your true self, your unbreakable self, remained untouched. Nothing in this world can harm the soul. Once you saw this, once you knew they were only attacking a temporary part of you, they lost their hold. You chose your true self over the noise, and you won your freedom. And with every choice to honor yourself, everything started shifting. Your energy rose, your path cleared. You awakened, not by fighting, but by standing in your light. While your life began to bloom, theirs began to crumble. Not because of you, but because of the choices they made. The tower they built on lies, on control, on appearances is falling, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Because this isn't punishment, this is the natural return of every action sent out into the world. The law of cause and effect doing exactly what it always does. Life isn't about keeping score, it's about balance. The harm they ignored, the truth they ran from, it's all finding its way back. Their loss of control over you was the beginning of facing themselves. Your life isn't about escaping the past anymore. It's about building the future. This is your moment. Not to prove anything, not to fight anyone, but to live fully, freely as the real you. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose after it. You are the softness that stayed, the courage that bloomed, the light that refused to dim. And now, you are walking a path that belongs only to you. Life is clearing the way, aligning every step, opening doors that once stayed shut. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. Let the past stay a chapter. Let your scars be reminders of how strong you are. Let your presence be what guides others, not your pain, but your peace. You have stepped into a place where you naturally help others, not by trying, but simply by being whole. Your calm, healed presence lifts those around you without effort. You don't need to prove anything. Just by living your truth, you become a quiet reminder to others of their own strength and light. This is a new beginning, not shaped by fear, not limited by old roles, but open, free, true, a freedom that comes when nothing outside of you defines your worth, a strength that doesn't need to shout, a love that feels steady and real. You have been through the fire, you have survived the storm, you have known what it's like to break, and you chose to rebuild. Now you rise, not as who you were, but as who you have become. Welcome to the life that's been waiting for you all along.